again. He's been sick, but his name's Red Elk.
Uh-huh.
And he believes that there are reptoids, not humans, but reptoids living in the hollow earth. Have you heard that?
What I have heard is that there are at least 8 major races and as many as 200 minor races living in the interior of the earth. Some of them are off-worlders, and some of them are ancient civilizations that have lived here long before we got here. And they do travel in craft. Some of them can leave the planet. Some of them cannot. They just travel around the planet observing things. And it appears that recently, like since the mid-1940s, the activities of we, the surface dwellers, have been quite perturbing to those who live in the inner earth, namely nuclear weapons testing and pollution and electromagnetic pollution, among just a few. And we're doing terrible things to the sea, which happens to be common between the inner earth and the surface dwellers. And so they are now, more than ever, coming to the surface and interacting with people who live on the surface. Some of them are trying to help, and some of them are actually maybe not involved in our best interests.
I'm going to try to get Pat Boone to go with you.
Yeah,
well, he was in that movie, Journey to the Center of the Earth. It's only fitting.
We're going to try to get the best that we can find. We're trying to get the Taylor boys that wrote A Land of No Horizon. We're trying to get, of course, Michael Sollitt to come, and James Gilliland and others that are fairly familiar with this, along with our historians. And it's, we can take 100, and we have about 68 seats spoken for right now, and it promises to be something right out of X-Files, I think.
Are you, and I've got to ask you this, you're bringing weapons?
I don't plan to bring any weapons. I don't think we're going to need any. If there are any on the ship, then the Russians will have them, and that's going to be a challenge, too. This craft has a 150-man Russian crew. We're going to have to get their consciousness up to that level.
Do they know what they're doing? Do they know where they're going and why?
Yep, they know where they're going and they know why, and some of the crew are quite excited about it. Some of them have issued statements to us that they have sailed close to this area where we're planning on going, and they have seen strange lights in the sky, strange lights under the sea, and they're pretty convinced that there is a major activity point, a portal, as it were, in that area.
Well, now, let me ask you, if there's that 80-mile to 500-mile hole at the top, what about the possibilities of smaller openings all over the planet that all connect to the same center of the hollow earth?
Well, as part of our exploratory efforts, I have gone to Mount Shasta. I've been to Mammoth Cave. We are going to Egypt later on this fall. We're going to try to go to all of these places if we can and hook up with whoever is supposed to be the authority on where this opening is, and we're going to try to gather all the information we can. This is a real serious expedition, although for my colleagues, I often repeat that it's for entertainment purposes only.
Well, why do you do that? Sounds like a scientific quest, doesn't it?
Well, I have to say, in the last 3 or 4 years, the notion of peer review or publish or perish in the physics community has begun to loosen a little bit. Prior to, I'm going to say, maybe 1999 or 1998, if you were to try to do anything like this, you would have just been lambasted and not be able to publish anything. But the evidence that when we go up against things like seismological data from the USGS, it begins to get a real serious scientific component to it. When you look at the data that's been collected since these accelerometers have been placed around the globe, and they've been upgrading them year in and year out, they're getting better at measuring earthquakes, at predicting earthquakes, and then we sort of do an MRI of the Earth every time there's an earthquake. If there's an earthquake on the other side of the globe, the vibrations go through the planet, and they're picked up by accelerometers on the other side of the planet, and we kind of map the interior of the Earth. The trouble is, when you look at the data, the technicians draw in these dotted lines to an area called a shadow zone. And now, I don't really like dotted lines when I'm looking at data. I want to see where did it come from, where did it go. Well, there's another scientist whose name is Jan Lambrecht, and he took the data and worked it backwards to the point of earthquake, and guess what it shows?
Why?
It shows a hollow earth. It shows a crust of somewhere between 800 and 900 miles thick, an open air area between maybe 1,000 and 1,200 miles, and then a dense, solid metal core that might even be glowing. And the counter rotation of the core and the crust is what creates our powerful magnetosphere. Not all the planets in our solar system have one.
Now, we know that there have been scientists up there at the North Pole. Has anybody leaked any information, Brooks, that would give you any idea that that hole is indeed there?
Well, now, the scientists are located pretty much at the North Pole. They have ocean floor probes that they recover every few months down around 4,300 meters. They're a little tricky to find and get up off the bottom, but they sit down there and do data logging. But they are about 500 miles away from where we are planning to go. 5 years ago, you could not have made this expedition. The ice would have prohibited you from getting there. But because of global warming and some massive ice shelf repositioning, this area is now accessible by sea.
This is an amazing journey, Brooks.
Well, I think it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to braving 120-foot seas and below zero winds. And
what if you get there? What if you're successful, like Bird was, and you don't come back because they don't let you come back?
They, meaning the inner Earth people? Or
yes, the inner Earth.
You know, it won't break my heart a bit. But
what do you mean it won't break your heart? You mean if they capture you and keep you there and enslave you?
Oh, I don't think they're going to enslave me. I just don't get that feeling at all, George. I don't. I'm an explorer. I've got to go.
Well, I don't know about that. You know, the conquistadors, they had their hands full. They didn't expect that. Well,
we're not going to conquer or take anything home. We're going to learn. We're going to reintroduce ourselves to them. And if you look back in the ancient record, even in the book of Isaiah, it says that in the last days, or in the turn of the age, it says, between the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius, which we're getting very close to. And in our second book, The Arc of Millions of Years, Volume 2, we talk about this in great detail. There's supposed to be a highway of ice open up in the north, and actually the lost 10 tribes are going to be reintroduced to us. This may be the very component that fulfills that prophecy.
So you're mixing, by the way, a little supernatural with a little real science.
Well, sure. We take in all the data that we can. It's one of the most perturbing things that I see in the scientific community is they regularly throw out perfectly good data just because it doesn't match their model.
Once again, Brooks, just give me all the possibilities of what you think the inner Earth could look like.
It could have an ocean similar to the ocean we have with its own marine life, but there's not going to be any day or night. And whereas we have an atmosphere that we fly above with our space shuttle, somewhere around 230 miles, or fly an aircraft somewhere around 8 or 10 miles, or breathable atmosphere somewhere around 3 miles, we're talking an atmosphere with perhaps 750 miles of breathable atmosphere. That will change the ecology, the look, the totality of life on the interior of the Earth. And we're talking an ocean with no horizon, no stars, no nighttime, a complete, and also a third less gravity than we have here on the surface. It would be hugely different than what we see here.
What about vegetation? Would that be different?
Yes, I think so. The wavelengths of light that we're looking at in the visible range, somewhere, I'd say between 900 nanometers and about 450 nanometers, would be conducive to giantism in plants. And if there's that kind of protein level, there's no reason